Dead Air. It came in a padded envelope, no return address, just my name in blocky type. Inside, a cassette tape marked WKRX Midnight Broadcast, October 11, 1991, in neat handwriting. No note, just the tape. I had to dig out my old recorder from the storage closet under a stack of interview microcassettes and mothballed extension cords. The tape hissed for 3 seconds. Then came the voice. Low, calm, familiar in the way thunder is. Something your bones recognize before your ears do. And if you're just tuning in, welcome back to the Midnight Hour. Tonight's story comes from a long way down. I stopped the tape. Not because I was scared, but because the voice on that recording, smooth, weathered, like an old DJ whispering in your ear, knew things. About me. Things I hadn't written, hadn't spoken aloud in years. Names, moments. That road outside Tulsa. The barn in Kansas. The thing I heard whispering under the floorboards when I was 12. I've heard plenty of strange broadcasts. Pirate radio. Number stations. EVP babble that's mostly wishful thinking. But this wasn't that. This was aimed. WKRX, as it turns out, had been a real station, once. A low wattage AM frequency out of a desert town called Lonely Reach, somewhere along the Nevada-Arizona border. The town barely existed on a map. No website, no visitors bureau. The only reference I found was a grainy scan of a 1992 local paper, headlined, Local Radio Station Destroyed in Mysterious Fire. No casualties. No investigation. Just a note that WKRX went off the air for good. So naturally, I packed my bags. Lonely Reach lived up to its name. A single road snaked through the town, flanked by boarded-up gas stations, sun-bleached trailers, and the kind of silence that creeps into your ears and stays there. The only motel in sight had a vacancy sign flickering between life and death. I checked in. The manager didn't ask questions, just handed me a key and nodded toward a vending machine that hadn't been stocked this century. WKRX was exactly where the paper said, just north of town, past a stretch of cracked desert road and some wind-bent Joshua trees. The building was small, brick, slumped to one side like it had been trying to disappear. The broadcast tower still stood, skeletal and rusted, humming faintly in the heat. The door wasn't locked, just stuck. I forced it open and stepped into stale air. Inside, dust. Ash. Melted wires and soot-stained equipment, a broken chair, a shattered microphone. Whatever fire gutted the place had left just enough for ghosts to cling to. But the strangest thing? The console was humming. Not live, not connected to power, just this low, intermittent pulse like a heartbeat under the surface. I checked my recorder, then left a night vision camera on the soundboard before heading back to town. The sun was dipping low. And according to the tape, the voice came at midnight. I tried asking questions around town. At the diner, the convenience store, even the laundromat where no one was doing laundry. The younger folks just shrugged. Radio station? Said one girl at the counter. That place burned before I was born. But the older residents, they paused. One woman with a voice like gravel and nicotine said they used to call it the ghost shift. Nobody listened unless they had to. Said it got too quiet, you heard things. What kind of things? Voices. Yours. Saying things you never said. Another man at the gas station just muttered, ain't been right here since the fire. He didn't look at me after that. That night, I returned to the station. The desert gets cold after sunset, sharp and sudden. I sat in the dust, recorder in hand, and watched the burned building under a sky full of stars that felt too close. At 11:58 p.m., the static began. A slow fade-in, barely there, just enough to raise the hairs on my arms. Then, midnight. The voice returned. And if you're just tuning in, welcome back to the Midnight Hour. It's always midnight somewhere. especially in places like this. I don't remember pressing record. I only remember listening. The voice told a story about a boy who used to sleep under a porch in summer because he was scared of what was inside the house. About a reporter who saw something through a window once, something with eyes that weren't supposed to be there. About a man who lost his father twice, once to death and once to something worse. Silence. It wasn't naming names, but it knew mine. I didn't sleep. The next day, I checked the recording. The voice was there, clear as wind through a canyon. But the words were different, not the story I remembered. This time, it was about a woman named Alice who never came back from the hills, about a town that forgot itself on purpose, about dead air that wasn't really dead, just waiting. And then came the last line. Silas, we've missed you. I didn't tell anyone what I'd heard. I didn't write about it in full. Some things don't belong in ink. But I did return to the tower that evening. Something about the transmission. It wasn't coming from the equipment. That was just the speaker. The source was deeper. Behind the station, I found a hatch, half buried in sand. Rusted shut, but not locked. It groaned when I pulled it open. A set of stairs descended into darkness. I followed. There was no smell, no moisture, just stillness. At the bottom, a small room lined with shelves and a single radio console. Old but untouched. Clean. As if it had been waiting. Tapes lined the shelves. Hundreds of them. All labeled in the same handwriting, dates, times, and titles. I found one with my name. I didn't listen. I left it there. But I took a photo, just to prove to myself later that it had been real. When I came back into the light, the sun was rising. The wind had picked up, scattering sand across the desert floor. The station above looked smaller now, less important. The town was quiet when I returned. Too quiet. At the motel, my room door was ajar. Inside, nothing had been touched, except for my recorder. It had stopped working. Just dead. I checked out that morning. As I passed the front desk, the manager looked up and said, "You were listening, weren't you?" I didn't answer. He nodded anyway, as if I had. "You'll hear it again," he said. "They always come back." Back at my office, I filed the tape under Strange and locked it away. I never wrote the story. Not for publication. Some stories, they don't want to be told. They want to be heard. And if you're listening to this, hoping for an answer, there isn't one. Not a clean one. Only this. Somewhere in the desert, the station still plays at midnight. Not music, not news, just stories. Ones that know you, ones that remember. I never sent that tape to anyone. But sometimes, when I pick up a blank cassette or tune through static late at night, I swear I hear the echo. Silas. You still there? And I change the channel. Every time. If this sort of thing keeps you up at night, you might want to subscribe. There's always more buried in the archives. And if there's a story you're looking for, drop it in the comments. Odds are, I've already got a file with your name on it. Just haven't dusted it off yet.